Hey, I'm Pedro and you're watching IT Pit. Don't you hate when someone tries to explain you something that should be quite easy but you do not get anything at all? Like nothing. I've been there. I know your pain. So perhaps you've heard about Docker. Docker, everyone says like this is easy, you should be using it, regardless of whether you are an IT specialist or just a regular home user, pro, maybe power user, computer user at home. You perhaps have had the chance or you are doubting about using Docker for your local setup. I mean, probably you have tried to, run some Minecraft server at home in order to be able to play with your kids. I do regularly. And I use Docker a lot. I'm an IT professional with around 20 years under my belt and like 8 kilos I would rather like to get rid of, but that's more difficult, I guess. But and I use Docker a lot, okay? And it is quite easy and simple to use, and many people doesn't get what it is and what is good for and why should they be using it. Mainly because once you get to the internet or to YouTube or whatever blog you are searching at, people is going to start to bombard you with terms such as lightweight containerization, lightweight virtualization technologies, and things like that, and services and deployments and replica sets and clusters and even swarms and things like that. So I guess that's not quite approachable for many users. So I'm trying here to make an explanation on what Docker is in layman terms, okay? So first of all, I want you to join me in my computer so I can show you something, okay? Here we are, and here I am, here, up, right? And first of all, I wanted to ask you, do you know what emulator is? Probably you do, because, not many people know what virtualization is, but pretty much everyone that I know of has played video games once in their life, at least. So perhaps you are old, like I am already, and you had the chance to play with some of these video games, like game consoles, like Nintendo 64, GameCube, Game Gear, Game Boy. Some of those are pretty old already. Those you needed cartridges to play with, okay? And yeah, if you wanted to play with one of those, you had to have the actual machine, and then you needed the cartridges or the discs, and you had to connect it to a TV screen or some kind of screen device, and then you would play with your controller and so on and so forth. So when I was at high school, approximately, it started to happen that some of those consoles were getting retired and they weren't that accessible anymore, and some people was concerned about not being able to play to their games as they aged. So it came the age of these things, emulators. And emulators is quite a funny concept. It's like a program inside of your computer that is capable of acting as a video game, as a game console. So here I have one of the games that I possess, Zelda, and another one, Super Mario Bros. Those are both from Nintendo, NES. And this program lets you drop one of those files in here and play to that game. So you can run Zelda. No, you can even hear it, I guess. Those games, those times, yeah, nice times. Okay, so, oh, come on, let me be, yeah, right. So what's the magic behind this? Okay, the thing is that the contents of the cartridge are binary things, they are ones and zeros, the things that the machines talk, okay? So they thought that they could make a program that could act as a game console. It should be a virtual game console, okay? Virtual, first time we're hearing that word here, okay? Virtual game console. We are emulating, we are acting like a game console that is being put a cartridge, which is one of these files. The contents of the cartridge are one of these files. Those are the binary things that are getting inside the console, okay, the game console. And it's acting just like that machine. It's like a virtual game console. So that concept was quite powerful, and you have plenty of game consoles to choose among, And if you have those cartridges, you can download those files, being legal, and play to your games to your heart's content. Okay, as long as you want, and yeah, so that concept was quite amazing. I mean, and it was. This is not a history of virtualization, but yeah, that same concept goes one step forward, and you get to the virtual machines. Perhaps you've heard about those. Perhaps you in a Mac, perhaps you have used Parallels to have a Windows machine running parallel to your Mac OS. Perhaps you have used VirtualBox or VMware. Those are virtualization technologies that allow you to run something like a computer inside of your computer. It's like building a house, a model house inside your house. Okay, that house that you're building inside, it has practical limitations. It can sound stupid to build a house inside a house. I know, and it's not. Bear with me here. But imagine that you want to make another computer inside of yours, so that you can have it like in a screen. Okay, so let me share with you one of the virtual machines that I have here at my home machine, my home Mac, and yeah, I can even make it full screen, and you would be easily fooled, thinking that this is an actual Linux machine instead of a Mac OS. And I can switch screens right now, and you can see that I am still running my Mac OS machine here, but I can also run a Linux machine. I have both. What is this useful for? Okay, let's imagine for a moment that you are running Linux. I don't know if you have had any experience with Linux before, but Linux, it doesn't get well with most of Microsoft products. For instance, Microsoft Office. Imagine that you have a Linux machine because for work you need Linux, which is my case, and you want all the goodies of having Microsoft Word, for which you have a license, okay? So one of those things that you could do is actually install a virtual machine inside your Linux and run Microsoft Office. Or conversely, if you are running Windows or you are running or you have a Mac OS machine, you could want to have a Linux machine inside of your host in order to be able to run those programs that you need for work, okay? So having a machine inside of a machine does have its benefits, more than you can think of. And we are going to expand on that a little bit later, okay? So let's first see how do we build one of these machines or homes inside of your home, okay? So first of all, you need the software, the virtualization software that allows you to do so. This is different from the emulators, in which in the emulator you just needed the program that is capable of emulating the game console that you want and the cartridge, the file. Okay, here you are going to build a new PC. Okay, so you would choose something to start with, follow one of these wizards in order to be able to do it fast, and later, or even choosing the advanced wizard, you can actually choose what do you want in your machine. So as you can see here, we can choose what kind of graphics device do we want, how much processor, how many cores of your host do you want to devote to this virtual machine. In this case, I have like 12 available cores in this machine. It's a pretty hefty one. And I have devoted 4 cores just to this machine. The more cores you devote to the virtual machine, the less you have in your host. You run the risk of depriving completely of resources your host machine. So you can never build a bigger house inside of your house. You get me here, right? If you have 64 gigs of RAM, which is what I have here, I cannot give 128 gigs of RAM to my virtual machine inside. You can only grow so much inside of one of your machines. So you choose what you want for your virtual machine to run, including things like if you want to have virtual drives, virtual sound cards, virtual network interfaces, like these ones, okay? And you can also map drives, pretty much like you had on the emulator, that you had the cartridge, which was a file that you plug in. You need your hard drive in your virtual machine, and that hard drive is going to be a file, a much larger file, a really, really big file, okay? And that's one of the drawbacks, and we are going to be touching on those drawbacks on the virtualization following the virtual machine standard paradigm. But yeah, whenever you are building a machine, you need a big disk file. Why? Because once you start the machine, you are going to install a whole operating system inside. I mean, I don't know if you have ever tried to format your machine and to reinstall a operating system from scratch, but you need, you know, the typical DVD or perhaps a USB dongle of some kind. You have to plug it, and then you have to do some steps in order to format your hard drive and then install everything from your operating system, and then you have to start installing the actual apps that you are going to use. Microsoft Office, Chrome, Firefox, Thunderbird, whatever apps that you need for your work, you are going to install them inside. And the same happens here in a virtual machine. Once you have the virtual machine running, you need to install all the goodies that you want inside. And that's going to make your file, your virtual hard drive, grow. Why? Because you have to install all those things. Not only that, but see, we are running here 2 operating systems at the same time, which means that everything that your host operating system needs to be running, all the system services and all that infrastructure that it's required to give you a screen, you know, a desktop, like an interface with a mouse, with a sound card, with the graphics and all that goodies. Those things take RAM, take memory in your machine. So inside the virtual machine, they are going to be taking RAM exactly the same. So you are wasting twice your resources. Don't know if you get it, but yeah. I'm trying to drive a point here. It's wasteful in resources, okay? So yeah, I have here my machine, and I can do something like a system monitor. And I can show you that, yeah, actually running this Linux machine, even though Linux is quite savvy in resources, yeah, it's taking 1 gig of RAM already, just doing nothing here, sitting idle. I have no applications running right now. It's just taking 1 gig of RAM on its own. Not only that, but I also have already used like 7 gigs of hard drive just to have the operating system installed. I have nothing else here, okay? So then I have to install all those apps that I need, and those are going to take up space, even more space. So yeah, I mean, if you do not have a pretty hefty machine, running several of these virtual machines is going to it's going to eat up your resources. It's going to eat up your machine, your PC or your Linux or whatever you have, okay? So yeah, but what are the benefits? I mean, it's taking all that RAM and processing power from your machine and your hard drive. So what's the benefit? As I touched previously, we can run things from other operative systems inside of our operative system. I mean, you could always buy another machine, but that's not convenient. You would have 2 machines with 2 screens in your desk, and that's kind of, awkward. Then you could also make a partition in your hard drive if you are so inclined and you know what you're doing. You can divide the space in your hard drive into 2 parts, and you have Linux here and Windows here, or maybe MacOS here and Windows here, or Linux, or whatever, or 3 of them. And you can choose whenever you boot your machine, whenever you start it, you can choose which operative system you want to run. But then you are running just the one, okay? So what happens if I'm here in my Mac and I want to run something that only works in Linux? Well, then I have a problem. But if I have a virtual machine, I can do both things. And that's great on itself, but it goes far beyond than that. Because imagine that you want to run one program that only works on Windows 95. Then you have a problem. You shouldn't install Windows 95 in a regular PC, and you shouldn't connect it to the internet by no means, because it's not safe at all. But you still have that program that only works on Windows 95, right? Or those drivers for one scanner, very huge, or a printer, very expensive printer. Yeah. So you need a Windows 95, yeah? So that is your solution. You can install it inside a wonderful virtual machine. And then what? Then you can use it whenever you want, and then you can close it. And you do not need to connect it to the internet because it's just running inside of your machine. More than that, imagine that you have one of those programs that you download from the net and you're not so sure, maybe it has something. Yeah, you can create one of these virtual machines and play with your program and then close it and be safe because it's, it's contained within that file. You can completely isolate it from the rest of your network and even from the rest of your machine. You can do whatever you want on that sandbox. You're free to play, to do whatever you want. You can experiment. In fact, in IT, we use it a lot because you can put the programs you want inside, then you can close it, and you can put it elsewhere. You can take that that virtual disk image, that is your virtual machine, and you can take it wherever you want. You can even take it to another machine, to another, a bigger machine, and you can expand those resources that you had. I mean, if I take this virtual machine to a bigger machine, I can give it more cores, I can give it more RAM with no problems at all. I can expand it. And as it is virtual, it's not going to have any kind of issue with drivers. If you try to do that, if you try to take the disk, the hard drive of my Mac machine and put it elsewhere, it's not going to work because the drivers are not going to be right. It's not the same brand of processor or the same model. It's not the same amount of RAM. It's not the same. Anything is going to work at all. It's going to be an issue. Regardless of that, the virtual machine approach is seamless. You can take it wherever you want and it's going to run. In fact, we use it a lot. We share virtual machines. They are big. But yeah, we have services that we can upload them to, like Dropbox and things like that, and you can download everywhere, somewhere else, and you can run your virtual machine. And if you are working, doing something, you can, close it and keep that state and store it somewhere else. Like, hey, I want a backup, but not a backup of my data. I want a backup of my whole system. And that's amazing because in IT, we are always worried about if something goes wrong. And if something goes wrong, you probably need all the data of your database. You have all the money of the banks is hidden inside a database. But they also need all the programs that are running, the database program itself, not only the data, but also the program running in order to be a bank, to be something that works. For Google to work, they not only need the data, they also need all those services running. So if you can back up the whole system, that's very, very powerful, and we like it a lot. You could also use it as a home user, of course, but yeah, it's kind of a feature more common to IT specialists. And of course, insecurity is paramount. I mean, you can test whatever you want, a new virus or something like that, and it is, it's firewalled. It's completely isolated from the rest of your system. You can mess with it as much as you want, and it's not going to harm anything at all. So yeah, virtual machines are great. But then, imagine that I want another use case scenario for IT guys. Imagine you have one server and you want to replicate it to make it faster, because you can have two, and then you can swap which one is answering to your queries regarding and making double the throughput. I mean, if you have two of them working, they are going to be twice as fast, right? So you could do something like that with this. You can copy this machine and you can replicate it, and you can duplicate it, and you can have two of the same. But then they are taking more and more resources, more and more disk space, okay? So what happens when you have done like 70 security copies of your machine that you have completely wasted your hard drive? You need huge amounts of information. And that's when Docker comes to play, because this thing is virtualizing a whole computer. And in IT, especially in IT, most of the things that we are running are not some GUI application, graphical user interface applications like Office. We're usually running things like web servers and programs that are running on a command line that do not need this kind of graphical user interface. So here comes Docker. Docker is another virtualization platform, but it's lightweight. Huh? See, now we are starting to get into why the lightweight virtualization platform based on containers. Okay, now we're going to deep dive into the container stuff. So Why would you want to use Docker? Docker is lightweight in the sense that it's not virtualizing the whole PC, the whole machine with the graphical user interface and all the libraries and all the goodies that you need in order to be able to run a whole computer. Docker is taking advantage of the fact that it's running on a computer already, on an operative system that is providing some things, some infrastructure already. So whenever you run something in Docker, it's much more lightweight because it doesn't need to install the whole operating system. In fact, Docker, it's very smart because first of all, Docker is free. You can install it, and don't be afraid to install it. Really, it's as simple as going to docker.com. You click Get Started, and then you install Docker Desktop. And here you have the different clients that you would need for Mac, for Windows, or for Linux. You can do it all here. Then once you have installed it, I already have it installed, so no need to do that. You can run it. Once you run it, you get one of these things. Okay, one icon, some sort of another, depending on whether you are on Windows, Linux, or Mac. Once you have running, you have this kind of dashboard, and you can also configure it just like we did with the virtual machines. We can take resources and we can say how many cores do we want to devote, how much RAM do we want to use, how much disk space do you want to grow Docker up to. And yeah, I have reserved a lot of resources here for my Docker instance, but don't be afraid. I really am a power user. I'm using a lot of stuff, and I'm doing really loads of things with Docker on a daily basis. And that's why I have a big machine and I have so much reserved for Docker here, okay? But yeah, you can pretty much go okay with just 1 gig of RAM and just like 10 gigs of disk space, okay? It's really quite savvy. Then, once you have Docker installed, what do you do with it? I mean, the virtual machine was quite easy, no? You could just create a new one and do stuff, install things inside. Quite clicky, right? This is not like that. This one mainly is used through the command line. And I know. Command line is ugly. No one likes to write. Everybody wants to click everywhere. But I challenge you. It's more difficult to use Microsoft Word and find whatever you want to do with styles than it is to find what do you need to put in the command line to run Minecraft. A Minecraft server. Imagine that you want to play Minecraft with your kids, you want to do it with your tablets and your iPhones, and you want a server, a private server for you and your family, and you do not want to pay. You know, it's not that expensive to have a server for that many users, 3 users or so, or even 16 users, but it can be even cheaper, and it can be totally private, and you can have it at your home. You know, it's kind of convenient. So what do you need in order to run that Minecraft server? If you do not have Docker, then, well, okay. Let's search in Google, right? Minecraft Java server. Sorry for that. Okay. From the official webpage of Minecraft, we can download the jar, which is the program that is running actually the Minecraft server, and it runs under Java. I don't know if you know Java. Java is an interpreter. It's like it enables to execute or to run programs that are written in Java. Okay, so this program is written in Java. Yeah, so if you want to run Minecraft Java version, you need Java. This is a problem, the first one, because maybe your machine doesn't have the Java that it's needed to run this version of Minecraft. Maybe you have to install a newer or an older version of Java, and that's going to cause you trouble. I don't know if you have had that notification in your machine saying you have to upgrade Java and then something stops working at all. Yeah, that's kind of frustrating. That's one of the reasons why we like virtualization so much, because once you have something running in a virtual machine, you do not mess with it. You do not install anything else. You wrap it and you keep it like that. And Docker is great for that as well. But here, you know, you're starting to taste first blood. You need that Java. And you need to download this, and you need to know how to make this run, because it's heavily dependent on some configuration parameters here, okay? And what else? I mean, imagine that we want both servers. We want both the jar and the Java version and both and the Minecraft and the Bedrock version. Okay, let's search. And this one is the alpha server for, okay, we have it for Windows and we have it for Ubuntu, which is Linux. So I'm a Mac user. End of the game for me, right? Not so much, not so much, not so much. We could also run a virtual machine and have that server inside. But that would take a lot of space. And yeah, not only a lot of space in your hard drive, but also a lot of resources. You would need a gig of RAM just to run that Linux machine, okay? So, as I told you, we are going to stop messing with that and trying to run it as it is. We're going to go the Docker way, which is the easy way. And we are going to start accepting that we do need Docker already. So, Docker Minecraft. Okay, let's start with the Minecraft Java. There's Docker Hub. Docker Hub is like the repository of Docker things, okay? Because in Docker, usually you do not build your virtual machine. You download it from the internet. It's already been made. You remember when I told you that you could make like backups that you can share with people of virtual images? Because as it is virtual machine, you can run it wherever you want. It's virtual hardware. You can emulate it wherever you want, right? Docker is that as well. But it's so convenient because you download it from the internet. Not you. Docker does it for you. It's so amazing because you do not have to download the actual binary file of the program that you want to run. You ask Docker to do it for you. This command. Okay, we copy it. This one is a tricky one because you have to accept the end user license agreement, and they didn't tell you here that you had to do so. But yeah, let's try. Okay, so we have Docker running, and we are going to the command line, and we are going to say let's try to understand what is going on here. Docker. We ask Docker to run this thing. The last thing that we put here is what we want to be running, which is this thing here, ITZG Minecraft server. Yeah, straight enough. Name. Yeah, this means that we are going to name this virtual machine, small virtual machine. We're going to name it MC Minecraft, right? And then we have here this -p 25565 and the same again. Okay, this is port. Servers usually have ports. Just get over it, okay? This is what you need to make it run. And then, yeah, Docker run and -d. Okay, this -d we are going to change right now because we want to see what is going on. So we put here IT. IT means that we do not want to run it as a daemon, which was what that D meant. We want it to be running interactively. That's what this IT. This IT is in reality 2 parameters, but we are going to collapse them just in one. It means interactive, and with that we want a terminal. This is a terminal, okay? So, whoa, remember, see? I told you, Docker doesn't need to have locally something to be able to run it. It searches for it in the web, in Docker Hub. So he said, I do not have locally any Minecraft thingy that you asked me to run, so I will download it for you. Once it downloaded it, it ran it. As I told you, it's a lightweight containerization platform. It's not running a whole machine. It's just running the one program, the server. And here it is, what the server is saying. He says, please accept the Minecraft end user license agreement. And it is this simple. I mean, they could have put it here in the documentation. They didn't do it because they want you to be a hacker, because it's so cool to be able to know how this works. But as you will see, if we go for the Bedrock version, we do not need to know that much at all, because in here, this one comes with everything you need. This command is all you need to run a Docker with a Minecraft server, Bedrock server here in your machine locally with nothing else. I mean, you could literally install this and then run this on your command line, and you would have Bedrock server. You do not need to download anything else, nothing else. You don't need anything else. Yeah, here we have, yeah, already, okay, yeah, sorry. As I already had installed something by the name of MC, it's complaining about that. So Docker allows me to delete the virtual machines that I've gotten, you know, they are stopped and they are kind of obsolete. So we can do it here as well. As you see, if we go to containers in the dashboard of Docker, we have here this one which is exited because it didn't actually work. It needed the end user license agreement, and we can delete it from here. So if we do not want to write it in the command line, which would be something like docker mc, that would be all it needed, we can do it there. And now we can run with our end users license agreement, and that's it. It's running. There we have a Minecraft server. I can Control C, get out of it. Now it's not running because I Control C it out. But I could also run it as a daemon, -d. I can, once again, it's stopped. I can just delete it, or I can run it again from here. If I run it again from here, it will act as a daemon. We do not need to do this. We can just do it here. But if you just want to do it in one step, we can surely do that with -d. If we do it like -d, yeah, we are back here to the command line, and here we have it running, and we can see what is going on inside that server in here in the console that it's giving us. Okay, of course we can stop it from here if we want. We can stop, we can get into the CLI, we can open in browser, we can delete it. Okay, let's delete it. Even though we do not need to delete it, we can have it running. Oh, in fact, let's have it running, and let's see one more command, docker stats. How much resources is taking this Minecraft server? Let me see. Minecraft is taking 1 gig. That's a lot. That's definitely a lot. But if we were running it in a Linux machine, that would be taking 2 gigs. The gig of Minecraft and the one from Linux. Okay? Yeah, so yeah, let's get rid of this one anyway. And let's try again, this time with the, sorry. Yeah, this time I have here the command that I copied from this side. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. So here I have the whole command that I needed in order to be able to run oh yes, here I have it with cheats on. This is the Bedrock server, but with cheats. My son likes to play with cheats, okay? So these are the environment variables. This is the thing that configures how do you want to run your server or your whatever command you are running with Docker. This is the way you communicate with it, and you say, how do you want it to be running with -e. This means environment. This is setting environment variables in that command, in that thingy, in that virtual machine that Docker is running, so that it can get, you know, input from you before you are actually running it. And we are saying here, okay, I want game mode, creative, difficulty, peaceful, allow cheats. Yes, please, cheats, give me cheats, and all that goodie. And I can run it, and yeah, just like that, it's going to download it, and it's going to make it run in the background for us. Yeah, it's running. In fact, I can just try to connect it, connect to it. Yeah, here it is. In friends, dedicated server, Bedrock level. Yeah, I can join the server that I've just created. Plain working. So I told you that it was easy, and I told you that perhaps even you already have it and you do not know. Because you know what? Yeah, the thing is that Docker comes bundled with some of the stuff that we already own. For instance, I have at home, I have one of these NAS, network area storages. So I can log in. See, this thing allows me to, you know, have like like my own Netflix and my own or a Plex server. I can have my files, my backups. I can have a lot of stuff running on my NAS. It's Synology NAS. They are QNAP as well. If you don't own one of those and you have like many computers at home, probably you would benefit from having one of these. You can store your videos and things like that there, and it's quite convenient because you can access them from outside, even if you configure it. And this machine allows you to install some software inside of it, okay? As you see, I have here Docker already. And whenever I install some of the packages that this thing can offer to me, they are mostly being installed as a container inside Docker. So this NAS already has Docker. And as you can see here, I have plenty of containers already running inside. Things for my home automation system, many of them. So here I have my Home Assistant. If you have installed or you're planning on installing a Home Assistant as has.io, the has.io deployment or deliverable. I don't know how to name it, but if you install, the easiest way to install Docker Home Assistant in a Raspberry Pi is going to come bundled with Docker, because here in the supervisor, you can add things, you can add programs, extra programs. Like for instance, you can have one of these Pi holes. Pi hole is a way to ensure that no one is going to have those pop-ups, annoying pop-ups and ads that come out of the net of the web ever so often. So Pi-hole allows you to get rid of those. Anyway, you have plenty of things to choose from. You have Grafana, you have a lot of stuff that you can install in your Home Assistant installation inside of a Raspberry Pi, which is a tiny computer with very little resources, if any at all. And yeah, Docker runs inside of that. In fact, I can show you, because here I can SSH, I can log inside my Raspberry Pi, and here I'm inside the Home Assistant that is running on a Raspberry Pi 3B+, which has just 1 gig of RAM. And here you can see in human we have 1 gig of RAM, exactly 1 gig of RAM. And if we do like Docker stats, we can see that it's running a lot of containers that are not taking that much at all. See? It's not taking anything at all. 3 megs. Yeah, so yeah, as you can see, Docker is everywhere, and it's going to be growing ever so much. And it's a tool that you can use, and I insist that you should try. If you're thinking about it, it's free, and it's very easy to use and easy to get rid of if you do not like it anymore. You just go download it and try it. If you want to run a Minecraft server, go for it. It's plenty of fun to play Minecraft with your kids or with your friends, or with whatever you want, or even yourself. You are on your own. And yeah, having that server locally, it's going to make it easier and more accessible and fun. And you can run a lot of things. I even have like a WordPress installation, and I can have my blog or try some things with other kind of services that you can run in Docker. So yeah, I hope you like this. I hope it was approachable for everyone. I hope that you had the chance to understand a little bit more about what virtualization is and what Docker plays inside the world of virtualization, and how is it that it is so amazing for IT specialists. So hope to see you again here real soon. Thanks for joining me. You can, if you are interested in this kind of content and you want to help the channel, you can comment something out down there. You can also, of course, you can subscribe and you can ring that bell. It helps a lot to the channel. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.